Welcome back to my channel. Um, so if you're new here, I just want to let you know that I only channel messages as I feel called. And it was interesting because as I was getting ready for this reading, um, I was just looking at some notes that I had written about some of the themes that are occurring at the moment, and a card fell out as I was shuffling, which is Door to Spirit. And it was in reverse. So in this card, you can see that spirit is sort of wanting to come through this open door, wanting to guide us um, on the path forward. Um, and I was getting this feeling that we have the door closed, like we're not allowing spirit to come through in the way that it wants to in order to guide us forward. And that really ties in with the theme for what's going on in the astrology that I wanted to touch on before I did the reading. So one of the overarching themes of the astrology of the moment is um, what are we holding on to in the old um, that once brought stability and security to us, but is no longer. And in that question, so what is it in the old that once brought us stability and security, but is no longer bringing us that? But also, how are you sabotaging yourself because of a fear of letting go? How might you be closing this door to spirit that wants to come through to allow for new things to come into your life? How might you be sabotaging that process because you're holding on to something that you knew from the old um, that once did bring some stability and security, but is no longer bringing that stability and security? And some of what this theme is related to is the fact that Uranus, which is the planet of awakening and disruption, also kind of thought of as like lightning bolt energy. So Uranus really brings this like this intense strike of energy in order to shake things up. And it has been in Taurus, which is the planet, the sign of stability and security for the past 8 or so years, since 2018. And it has just moved now into Gemini, which is the sign of communication, intellect, learning, freedom in many senses too. Gemini really does represent freedom of ideas, of expression, as well as like our local neighborhoods and communities. So we have this shift from this awakening energy, having been in a very earthy, grounded space, which is Taurus, which likes comfort and security and stability. And it had been shaken up since 2018. And I think there are many ways that we can see in our own lives how our sense perhaps of our sense of value, our sense of self-worth, how we define what our value and our worth is, um, how we live that out through our bodies. So like if you think of what happened with COVID, that was really a time where people's sense of stability and security and livelihood became at risk because our bodies were restricted, because we couldn't do the things with our bodies that we needed to do. And that started to have many of us kind of question, well, then where does our worth and our value come from? And, for many people, that did mean a shift and a change in what they ended up doing for work and finding other ways to find value and self-worth. Certainly that was an experience for me. So we're now moving into, like Uranus is now moving into Gemini, which is an air sign. And it can move much faster. So what we're also going to be seeing is the ways we communicate, the ways that we share ideas and learn things and share information. All of that is going to start to have these kind of rapid changes and shakeups. And it's going to be at a faster pace, potentially, than it was when Uranus was in an Earth sign. And again, as a reminder that all of these shakeups that are happening are for the purpose of awakening. That is what Uranus is about. It's about helping us gain a better understanding and perspective of what we're going through so that we can adjust our course to become more aligned with what actually is, you know, in the highest good of our path and our journey. So if we're resisting that, if we're holding on to something that felt stable and secure from the past that now wants to be moving and changing and shifting a lot faster, and we're still, you know, staying fixed and stubborn in what we knew, we might have more difficulty, for sure. We're not really flowing with the energy that life wants to move with through us, and not really allowing this energy of life force of creation to move us in the path and in the direction that we need to go into. Related to this, I also wrote down some thoughts around this reading. Are like, you can kind of think about this in terms of, where do you second guess or doubt your own intuition? So where is it that you kind of get this nudge from spirit, that your intuition gets pinged, and then you question it, doubt it, and then close that door? So that's one thing to kind of sit with and think about. And then the other, because we're really moving into Gemini season as well, it will really be focused on the mind. So really becoming aware of the role that our mind is playing in all of this. Like what are you allowing your mind to hold on to that really needs to let go? Is there anything else? So the last thing that I just wanted to share is around the moon cycles. So we had the new moon in Aries. I don't remember exactly when that was, but that was us entering into a new astrological season. And so with that new moon in Aries, you know, represents the self. And that was a moment for us to consider, like, what goals are we setting for this new period and this new timeline that we're stepping into, and defining who we are, who is the self in this era, in this moment. We are now approaching, we just had the full moon in Scorpio on May 1st, and we're now approaching the new moon in Taurus on May 16th. So that new moon in Taurus is going to be a moment for us to again, thinking about the lessons that we learned when Uranus was in Taurus, all those lessons around self-worth and value, and stability and security, and what really truly brings us safety and security. This is an opportunity with this new moon in Taurus on the 16th of May to really think about how we can plant seeds to make that new sense of what brings us stability and security, to really plant seeds to make that a new reality for ourselves. And part of that also means, like, what actually brings stability and security in the long term, right? Like sometimes we have these very lofty goals of, okay, this is coming to mind because, you know, related to thinking about Aries, is like, you know, maybe we start a new year and we say we're going to, you know, change our body overnight. So we're going to go to the gym like 5 times a week. If we haven't been going to the gym for years, that's not very sustainable. And Taurus reminds us that sometimes the most sustainable changes to build that long-term foundation and stability and security is actually taking small steps at a time. Even if you can't see exactly how you're going to get to the end point, the point is that you're listening to your intuition and you're taking those small steps each and every day, and there's consistency with that. So, okay, I think I'm going to leave it there in terms of channeled messages. I'm going to pull a couple of cards and see what wants to come through to add to this reading. So I'm going to begin with the Moonology deck. Overarching energy for this reading. Oh, beautiful. Okay. So we have luck is on your side. New moon in Sagittarius. So I'm going to pull a couple of clarifying cards before I read the energies here. Yeah, already I'm also just getting the message that, you know, we really are at a time of new beginnings. I'm also just paying attention to the fact that I was focusing on the new moon in Aries and the new moon in Taurus. And what we have here is new moon in Sagittarius. So there's really like a lot of energy of newness at this moment. And that newness really does want to come in. And the only thing that's stopping it is ourselves. Like there's something in our own energy field space, maybe an action, a habit, a person, something. Oops. Sorry about that. So it may be an action, a habit, a person, something that is in the way of this newness that wants to come in. For some of you, that's also going to be a romantic cycle. But even for those of you that if it's not a romantic cycle, I see this also as just a rebalancing of some energies. Like we have both, even though, you know, one's an arrow and one's scales, there's something about both of these, you know, with the images of an anchored central point that's sort of mirrored on both sides. It's giving me the sense, oh, and even this card, which was underneath another scales, and a win-win outcome is forecast. So I'm getting something about energies beginning to be balanced. And for some of you, you know, this new romantic cycle, it could be that it's also about finding that sense of balance and harmony within yourself, right? All of us have a blend of masculine and feminine energies. Our feminine energy is our sort of more intuitive feeling kind of aspect, and the masculine is the action and the doing, kind of more focused, directive aspect. And in order for us to create the kind of life that we are meant to live, really, that spirit, you know, again, if we go back to that door to spirit, that life that we're meant to live, that spirit is trying to guide us through, we need to be balanced in both our masculine and feminine. We need to have moments of pause and retreat where we are able to quiet the mind so that more of our emotions and more of that creative life force energy can kind of come up within. And then when we get those intuitive pulses from that sort of deepening into ourselves, we then can take action from that place in a way that's actually guided for our highest good and, you know, the highest good of all. So for some of you, I do see that, some of you in this collective that are watching this message, I do see that balance that you're cultivating from within yourself is actually going to bring in new romantic, balanced partnership. And for others of you, it really is just about the fact that balancing that you're experiencing internally is going to bring in more of the kinds of partnerships and connections that will bring more abundance, right? Like luck is on your side. So, and the planet that rules Sagittarius is Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion and abundance and wealth and luck. And so, yeah, yeah. Okay, those are the messages I'm getting from those cards. I'm going to pull just a couple more clarifying ones just to see what else Spirit has for us here. So perhaps, what is this luck? Yeah, thank you, Spirit. Okay. Yeah, and maybe one more. One more, please, Spirit. No? Okay. Mm, okay. So we have the sixth chakra, Archangel Metatron, which also connects to the third eye chakra. And then we also have the thinking woman reversed. So both of these cards actually were reversed. And again, with the message that I'm getting from both of them is that there is something blocking our intuition. A third eye also is associated with sort of clear seeing, that we're able to um, kind of see the path that we're meant to be going on very clearly because we're aligned and attuned in our own energies. And so the fact that it's reversed is indicating to me that there is, again, this imbalance in terms of our ability to really see the path forward. And with the thinking woman reversed, I'm getting the message that it's again because our mind, right? Like we really need to be aware of what are the thoughts that we're having that are preventing us from trusting the intuition, trusting that inner knowing that spirit is trying to guide us with. But we're not listening to it because we keep doubting. We keep allowing rational thought, because that is also part of it, is the feminine spirit doesn't always operate in very rational and logical ways. And I can say this as an engineer graduate. It took me a while to be able to trust my own intuition because I was taught to only think in a rational, linear, logical way. And that's not how spirit works. And so it does require a certain element of being able to trust our intuition and trust in messages that sometimes aren't logical. But that is how that sort of that Uranus energy, that redirection, that shake up to the way that we've been living our lives in this state of like comfort, that can only happen when we get an intuitive hit about something and then we're able to trust that it will guide us to adjacent possibilities, right? One of these doors is the door to spirit. There are many opportunities available here, but we can't see them if we're constantly questioning and doubting the path before us. Or if we're constantly closing the door on spirit, right? Like not allowing those messages to come through because we're too focused on the fact that it it should be rational and logical. Um, hmm, okay, I'm going to um, pull just a few more cards around advice, and I just had one fall on my lap. Knight of Cups. So again, for some of you, there definitely is a new romantic cycle coming in. Mm, it might not be a long-term romantic partnership because this is not the King of Cups. This is the Knight of Cups. But given, the what we have here in terms of, um, all of these energies that are about balance and harmony, and that luck is on your side, a new romantic cycle begins, and a win-win outcome is forecast. I'm sort of getting, and we have both the new moon in Libra and the full moon in Libra with both of these cards. And Libra is the sign of relationships and connection. And so I'm getting from this that even if this is not a long-term partnership for some of you, perhaps who are single, this is a beautiful connection that will support your growth, and their growth, and that it feels like there's something about this that will be very harmonious as well. Okay, so let me just see if there's any other. Any advice, Spirit, for this collective? Okay. Any other advice? Um, okay. Yeah. So the advice is to trust your intuition, right? You are the Queen of Cups. Like, she has a crown here at the top of her head. And this crown is representative of our connection to source, right? Our connection to spirit. So your advice is to open up that connection to source and to spirit and allow those messages, those intuitive knowings to come through, um, to help guide you, right? Um, the other thing about the Queen of Cups is that she's not afraid of her emotions. She's not afraid of being guided by her emotions, but also not afraid of expressing, right? She's like surrounded by blue. And this is having me think of the throat chakra, which is the light blue. So she's not afraid of expressing um, her emotions as needed as they arise, right? Trusting that intuitive knowing of when is the time to share your emotions and when is the time not to. But she is not afraid of this. And again, for those of you who are curious about relationships, I do see that, if you're the Queen of Cups, and gender doesn't matter, but if you're the Queen of Cups, then this new romantic cycle coming in may not be, your exact counterpart. Um, but I'm still getting from this, from these cards, that there's still a benefit in pursuing this connection. And again, for it although the cards are really showing me romance right now, it doesn't just have to be about romance. This could also be like a job opportunity, or a new friendship. It could be a new craft or skill that you want to learn, right? Like, this could be anything. It's an energy, not necessarily a person. Um, uh, Although, okay, no, now I'm hearing that it is a person, but it might not be a romantic partnership. It might still just be a business partnership. It could be a friendship. So it does feel like there's actually a person that's coming in right now. Um, And what I'm getting also is that this person, okay, because this person is offering their emotions, right? This is also the Knight of Cups. So they're coming forward with an offering that comes from their heart. Um, that is what's going to help you step further into your intuitive knowing. It's going to be something that supports you in stepping into the Queen of Cups energy. Um, and then the last piece that I had around advice that came out was the Hierophant in reverse. So the Hierophant represents, like in the traditional tarot, it's sort of like the Pope figure who sits at the, you know, the head of the church, and it sort of represents these like rules and structure and order that we've created in our lives. Also can represent contracts as well. But here I'm getting that it's more around this, the need to let go of some of the structure and order and rules that have guided your thinking thus far, right? That there's your advice in order to step into this energy is to release and let go of some of the rules, the logic, the rationality, the rigidness of um, of systems that you grew up with, either from childhood or through your education or just your own experiences that might be preventing you from stepping in fully into this Queen of Cups, intuitive, guided, kind of just deep knowing. And again, just as a confirmation of the need for this to occur. So again, what is the thing that we're holding on to from the old that is actually creating sabotage for us? And part of the ways that it's creating sabotage is that it creates confusion, right? Then we don't really know what choice to make, and then we feel stuck. So yeah, I'm sort of getting again that for those of you that might experience a person coming in that's helping you with this process of releasing and letting go so that you can step further and further into your intuition, trusting that there's a reason for this and being open to it and being open to what that connection is going to bring for you in terms of bringing you back into a sense of balance and harmony. Um, and because ultimately, when you're able to do that, you'll end up with victory, right? You'll end up with um, a positive outcome, a positive um, celebration and victory. And not necessarily in terms of, you know, this connection, but certainly in terms of yourself. Like this is bringing you more and more in alignment with who you are meant to be and with your higher self. And again, I will just mention here, because the mind continues to come up for in many of these readings that I do. And I know it's something that I've struggled with as well a lot. That if you feel like you're struggling with aspects of your mind that are continuing to hold on to this past, right? Or continuing to hold on to these patterns of thinking that are self-sabotaging, that are keeping you stuck and not allowing you to be open to like messages from spirit, not allowing you to trust your intuition. I also offer hypnosis and Reiki, and you can reach out to me through the links in the comment and description box below. And I would be very happy to help you work through some of those mental patterns and thinking that are keeping you stuck and blocked. Going to end off with one final card, just as advice from the angels and ancestors. What a one card of advice. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, yes. So, as I said, trust and thrive, right? You can get to the point of trusting spirit, trusting your intuition, you will ultimately thrive. Yeah, that is the reading. I have nothing more to share. It was an honor again to read for you. I'm so glad to have you here. Please, if you made it this far, I'd love for you to like and subscribe to my channel. As I said, I only do readings as I'm called to, but I trust that whoever this reading was for, that it served you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.